Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about time management.
Ooh, time management.
We are diving deep into the art of time management, strategies and mistakes to avoid. You know, we've all felt that sense of overwhelm,
Yeah,
that feeling that there's just not enough time to do everything that you need to get done.
we've all been there for sure.
But this deep dive is all about helping you master your time so you're not constantly feeling that way.
You know what's interesting about time management is it's not really about finding more time. It's
Right.
about understanding the psychology behind how we approach our tasks and then using that to work smarter, not harder.
Okay, so let's jump right in. The source material kicks off by talking about the importance of setting clear priorities,
Mm-hmm.
and they introduce something called the Eisenhower Matrix.
Okay.
So imagine this. You're swamped with a project deadline,
Yep.
but you also need to schedule that dentist appointment that you've been putting off.
Oh, yeah.
Which one goes first?
Well, that's where the Eisenhower matrix comes in handy. Okay. It helps you categorize tasks based on their regency and their importance.
Okay.
So your project deadline, that's definitely both urgent and important.
It is.
So that would go in quadrant 1.
Okay.
The dentist appointment, that's important but not urgent. Right.
Right.
So that goes in quadrant 2.
So essentially, it's kind of like a visual representation of what needs to happen right now
Uh-huh.
versus what can be planned for a little bit later.
Exactly. And it helps you stop feeling like everything is equally urgent.
Yeah.
And then you have quadrant 3. So these are things that feel urgent, like when a coworker asks for a quick favor,
Yeah.
but they don't actually move the needle on your big goals.
Oh, totally. And those quick favors can take over your entire day.
That's right. The Eisenhower matrix really helps you to see that and then either say no or delegate so you can actually focus on your important work.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And I guess quadrant 4 is where we find all the time wasters.
Yeah, all those things we do when we're avoiding tougher tasks.
Like endlessly scrolling through social media when you have a big presentation to prepare.
Exactly. But just by recognizing those distractions, you can start to reclaim control over your time.
So this actually leads perfectly into our next topic,
Okay.
the 80-20 rule, or the Pareto principle,
Right.
which states that 80% of your results come from just 20% of your effort.
Yeah.
Have you seen this play out in your own work?
Absolutely. Take writing a book, for example.
Yeah.
A lot of times, 80% of the value of the book comes from 20% of the content, like the key arguments and the emotional beats.
Yeah, it's interesting.
The rest of the book is important, of course, but it's really that core 20% that has the biggest impact.
So how can our listener use this principle? Is it about finding those vital few tasks that really make a difference?
Exactly. So let's say you're working on a marketing campaign.
Okay.
Instead of trying to be everywhere at once, you can try to identify the top 2 or 3 channels that'll get you the most return and then focus your energy there.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about being strategic with your effort instead of just trying to do everything.
Exactly. And that brings us to the importance of planning.
Right.
Even just 5 to 10 minutes each evening can make a huge difference in your productivity.
5 to 10 minutes.
That's it.
That's not bad at all.
No, it's not.
So what should our listeners be doing during those 5 to 10 minutes?
Well, it's about setting yourself up for a productive day.
Mm-hmm.
So review your Eisenhower matrix, figure out which of your tasks are in that 20% high impact category,
Right.
and then schedule those into your day. That's super important.
You're talking about time blocking.
Yes.
Right. I've heard it can be a total game changer.
Oh, yeah.
People like Elon Musk and Bill Gates swear by it, right?
They're definitely big fans of time blocking.
So essentially, you're assigning specific time slots in your day to different tasks.
Yes, just like you would schedule a meeting.
Doesn't that seem a little rigid, though? Like, what if something comes up?
Well, of course, it needs to be flexible. So that means building in some buffer time for those unexpected events or just for when you need to take a break.
Speaking of breaks,
Yes.
our source actually emphasizes the importance of using a productivity system that incorporates regular breaks.
Uh-huh.
So what are some of the popular methods out there that do that?
Well, the Pomodoro technique is a really popular one.
Okay.
It involves working for 25 minutes and then taking a 5-minute break.
Okay.
It actually aligns really well with our natural attention spans,
It does.
and it can help to prevent burnout.
So it's basically interval training for your brain.
That's a great way to put it. You also have time blocking, which we just discussed.
Right.
And then there's the getting things done, GTD method.
Okay.
And that's a more comprehensive system for capturing, clarifying, organizing, reflecting on, and engaging with your tasks.
So there are lots of different systems out there.
There are.
But It's really all about finding one that works best for you.
Exactly.
But the question is, how do you actually stay focused when you're surrounded by distractions all day long?
Ah, that is the million-dollar question.
Right.
That's actually something that we're going to dive deeper into in part 2 of this deep dive.
Okay.
But for now, I think it's important to start by becoming aware of your distraction patterns.
Okay.
So notice when you get pulled away from your work and what's pulling you away.
So is it like those social media notifications or the emails that are constantly popping up? Or is it your coworkers coming up to you with quick questions?
It could be all of the above. And once you know what your distractions are, you can actually start to minimize them.
Okay.
And we'll talk more about that next time.
Perfect. Okay, so we've covered setting clear priorities, using the 80-20 rule, and incorporating regular breaks.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we need to touch on before we wrap up part 1?
Yes. There's one more crucial skill that often gets overlooked in time management.
Okay.
And that is learning to say no.
Yeah.
Learning to say no.
That's something I think a lot of people struggle with. You know, you feel obligated to say yes to every request that comes your way, whether it's from your boss, your colleagues, or even your friends and family.
That's right.
But the problem is, when you're saying yes to everything, you're essentially saying no to something else, and that something else might be more important.
Exactly. And saying yes to everything can quickly lead to burnout and resentment.
It can.
So it's important to be mindful of your commitments and protect your time and energy.
Yeah.
And that includes protecting time for rest and rejuvenation.
I think that's where a lot of us really fall short.
Uh-huh.
We push ourselves to the limit and sacrifice sleep and breaks in the name of productivity.
We do.
But that actually ends up backfiring in the long run, because when you're exhausted, you can't focus, you can't make good decisions,
Exactly.
and you're more likely to make mistakes.
You are.
So taking breaks and getting enough sleep are really essential for maintaining peak performance.
I couldn't agree more.
Well, I think that's a great place to leave it for today. But we'll be back next time to delve deeper into break techniques, strategies for minimizing distractions,
Yes.
and some more advanced techniques that'll help you really level up your time management game.
Absolutely. Welcome back. Last time we talked about a lot of the basic time management strategies, like the Eisenhower matrix and the 80-20 rule.
Right.
So are you ready to get into some more nuanced techniques?
Absolutely. I am really curious to learn more about those strategies for minimizing distractions.
Yeah.
Because I think in today's world, like, everyone is just bombarded with distractions all the time.
You're absolutely right. That is a big challenge these days.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people try to be reactive with their distractions,
Right.
but a more effective approach is to be more proactive about it.
Okay.
So instead of constantly reacting to all the notifications and the interruptions coming at you,
All right.
why not create a distraction-free environment right from the start?
Okay, so are we talking about like turning off notifications, putting your phone on silent,
Yeah.
or finding a dedicated workspace?
All of those things. You're essentially designing your environment so that it actually supports your focus.
Okay.
And then for those times when you absolutely need to buckle down and concentrate,
Uh-huh.
you might even want to consider using website blockers.
Yeah.
There are a lot of great apps out there that can actually block you from accessing distracting websites and apps.
So it's like putting up a do not disturb sign, but for your digital world.
Exactly. But what about those distractions that come from inside us?
Yeah.
All that inner chatter,
Yeah.
our thoughts and our anxieties,
Right.
that can be just as distracting as all the external stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's where mindfulness practices can really help.
Okay.
Even just taking a few minutes to focus on your breath,
Uh-huh.
that can help you calm your mind and bring yourself back to the present moment.
So it's about building that inner awareness
Mm.
and learning to observe your thoughts without getting swept away by them.
You got it. And that actually brings us to another really important topic.
Okay.
Energy management.
Oh, okay.
Remember, effective time management isn't just about managing the hours in a day. It's also about managing your energy levels.
I think we touched on that briefly in part 1.
We did.
So can you elaborate a little bit on what energy management actually entails?
Of course. It's all about understanding your natural energy rhythms.
Okay.
So throughout the day your energy is going to fluctuate, and you want to notice that. Like, when do you feel the most alert and focused?
Right.
And when does your energy start to dip?
Okay.
And then you can schedule your tasks accordingly.
So if I know I'm a morning person,
Uh-huh.
I should tackle those really challenging tasks early in the day.
Exactly. That's when your energy is at its peak.
Okay.
And then maybe save the more mundane stuff for later in the day.
Gotcha. And of course, we can't forget about taking regular breaks.
We can't.
Those breaks are so important for recharging and preventing burnout.
It's like hitting the reset button for your brain.
It is. Okay, so now I want to talk about batching.
Okay.
I've heard the term thrown around,
Yeah.
but I don't fully understand what it is.
So batching is essentially grouping similar tasks together and then completing them all in one go.
So instead of checking my email every few minutes, I might dedicate like a block of time each morning and each afternoon just to process email.
That's a perfect example, and that eliminates all that constant context switching, and you can actually get into a flow state for that type of task.
Oh, I see. Okay. And what other kinds of tasks lend themselves well to batching?
Well, it can really be applied to any type of work.
Okay.
Think about writing, editing, making phone calls, running errands,
Yeah.
even processing paperwork.
So you're basically finding those tasks
Yeah.
that have similar contexts and require you to be in a similar mindset, and then you group them together
Precisely. It's all about creating a rhythm to your workday.
instead of constantly jumping back and forth.
Yes. Now, I want to talk about something that I think trips a lot of people up.
Go.
People think that there's just one perfect time management system that works for everyone.
Okay.
But that's not true.
Right.
It's really about finding a system that works for you.
So what you're saying is, like, just because a system works for Elon Musk doesn't mean it's going to work for me.
Exactly. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to time management.
Okay, so how do you actually go about creating a personalized system?
Well, first, you need to take a step back and really reflect on your current habits.
Okay.
So think about, when are you most productive? What types of tasks drain your energy?
Right.
And what tools or techniques are you already using that you find to be really helpful?
So it's about building on what's already working rather than trying to change everything all at once.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment a little.
Okay.
Try using different planning tools, different productivity methods,
Yeah.
and see what feels the most natural and effective for you.
So it's an ongoing process
It is.
of like self-discovery and optimization.
Yes.
This makes me think about some of the things we talked about earlier.
Okay.
Like, what about those psychological barriers?
Uh-huh.
Like perfectionism and the fear of failure?
Mm.
Can those also sabotage your efforts?
Absolutely. Like perfectionism.
Right.
That can actually lead to procrastination and analysis paralysis because you get so caught up in trying to create the perfect system
Well, yeah.
that you never actually get started.
You're always tweaking things.
Exactly.
So you really have to embrace imperfection
You do.
and accept the fact that any system you create is going to evolve over time anyway.
Exactly. And the fear of failure, that can hold us back from even trying new approaches.
Oh, for sure.
Because we're so afraid that it's not going to work out.
So how do you actually overcome those psychological barriers?
I think it really comes down to reframing your thinking.
Okay.
So instead of aiming for perfection, focus on progress. And instead of feeling failure, view it as a valuable learning opportunity.
So adopt a growth mindset and don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Exactly. And just remember that creating a personalized system isn't about achieving some unattainable ideal. It's really about finding what works for you and helps you achieve your goals and what feels sustainable and fulfilling to you.
Makes sense. Welcome back for the final part of our deep dive into time management.
It's been a great deep dive so far.
It has. We've explored so many different strategies for managing your time more effectively.
We have.
But now I kind of want to bring things down to earth a bit
Okay.
and talk about how you actually integrate these principles into your daily life.
Yeah, because it's one thing to understand the concepts in theory, but it's a whole other thing to actually put them into practice.
Exactly. So I think it's important to acknowledge that applying these techniques is going to look different for everyone. Right.
There's no one right way to do it.
Like a freelancer's approach to time blocking is probably going to look very different from a corporate executive with a super busy meeting schedule.
Totally. And someone who's working from home with young kids, they're going to need to prioritize flexibility more than someone working in a traditional office setting.
Yeah. The key is to be mindful of your own specific needs and constraints, and then adapt these techniques to fit your own unique situation.
Exactly.
But what are some of the common pitfalls people run into when they try to implement these techniques?
Well, I think a really common mistake is trying to do too much too soon.
Okay.
People get excited about a new productivity system and they want to completely overhaul their routine overnight.
Yeah, that does sound a bit overwhelming.
It definitely can be. A much more sustainable approach is to start small, Focus on mastering one technique at a time,
Okay.
and then gradually build from there.
So maybe pick like one thing,
Yeah.
like the Eisenhower matrix, and really get that down
Uh-huh.
before moving on to something else.
Exactly. It's about creating lasting change, not about burning yourself out.
Okay, that makes sense. Another thing I've noticed is that people struggle with staying consistent.
Oh, consistency is so important,
Yeah,
but it can be hard.
it can. It's easy to start a new habit with a lot of enthusiasm, but then life happens and you kind of fall back into old patterns.
It does. It does. One thing that I've found to be really helpful for staying consistent is to build in some accountability.
Oh, okay. So is that like finding a time management buddy or sharing your goals with someone who can hold you accountable?
Yes. That's a great way to stay on track. You can also set reminders for yourself, you can track your progress,
Yeah.
and celebrate your wins along the way.
Yeah. Those little celebrations can really help to keep you motivated.
They really can. But I also think it's important to be compassionate with yourself.
Okay.
You know, we all have days when we slip up or fall short of our goals,
We do.
and that's okay.
Yeah. It's all about being kind to yourself and recognizing that time management, like any skill, takes time and practice to develop.
Exactly. It's a journey, not a destination.
It is. It is. Okay, so I want to shift gears a bit and talk about aligning your time management with your values and goals.
Okay, yeah.
I think a lot of times people get so caught up in the mechanics of time management
Mm-hmm.
that they forget to ask themselves why they're doing it in the first place.
Right. It's not just about efficiency. It's about creating a life that you actually enjoy.
Exactly. If you're constantly chasing deadlines and checking off tasks, but those tasks don't actually align with what's important to you,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to end up feeling empty and unfulfilled.
You are.
So I think before you even start trying to implement any specific time management techniques, it's crucial to take a step back
Yeah.
and ask yourself, what are my values?
Yes.
What are my goals?
Yeah.
And how can I use my time in a way that actually reflects those values and goals?
That is such a powerful question. It's about making sure that your daily actions are actually contributing to your big picture vision.
Yeah. So it's about being really intentional with your time and using it as a tool to create the life you want rather than just letting it slip away.
Exactly.
This reminds me of something we haven't really talked about yet, delegation.
Delegation. That's a big one.
It is. And I think it's something a lot of people really struggle with.
They do. It can be hard to let go of control.
Yeah, you feel like you have to do everything yourself because no one else can do it as well as you can.
Or as quickly as you can.
Right. But when delegation is done effectively, it's one of the best ways to free up your time and energy so you can focus on the things that you're truly best at.
It is.
So it's not about shirking your responsibilities. It's about recognizing that you don't have to be perfect at everything.
Uh-huh.
And it's about trusting other people to contribute their own unique skills and talents.
Exactly. So to wrap up our deep dive, I want to come back to the importance of self-care and reflection. You know, we've talked a lot about different techniques and strategies, but I think it's important to remember that time management is really about taking care of yourself.
It is.
It's about respecting your limits, knowing when you need to take a break, and making sure you're getting enough rest.
Yeah, it's about finding that sustainable rhythm for your life, one that allows you to be both productive and happy.
Exactly. And reflection is a really key part of that process.
It is.
Yeah.
Taking the time to step back, evaluate what's working, what's not working, and then making adjustments as needed.
That's right.
So it's about being mindful,
Uh-huh.
adaptable,
Yeah.
and kind to yourself.
Exactly. Time management is a journey, not a destination. And the journey itself can be just as rewarding as the outcomes that you achieve.
I love that. That brings us to the end of our deep dive into the art of time management.
It does.
We've covered a ton of information,
have.
but I think the most important takeaway is that time is a precious resource,
It is.
and it's up to you to use it wisely.
So as you go forth, I hope you find joy and purpose in every minute of your day.
Me too. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, may your days be filled with focus, clarity, and a sense of accomplishment.